hold on, just hold on, just hold on. And we walk this road forever, and I can never find a home. Just hold on, just hold on, just hold on. Just hold on, just hold on, keep holding on. Just hold on.
If I gave you a week, would you keep eating on bottle, lie in bed and pour a drink of me? And let your friends think you're developing a problem, but we're happier than it could be. And if there wasn't always something dragging us down, like everyone around us saying we're just messing around. Then maybe I can love you, babe, but maybe I'm too afraid of getting less than I gave. I'm not that brave. I'm not that brave.
This is not a test. May God be with you. This is not a test.
Alright, sorry about that, everybody. Welcome to Disclosure TV. So, I was going to do if you hear noise in the background, that is my wife. I taught her how to do woodworking. I do construction, so I taught her how to do woodworking, and she is outside woodworking. So anyway, so that's probably what you're hearing. Anyway, so I was watching one of Marfugel's shows, and actually I live in Kentucky, so um, I know about what's happening with the 40,000 gas masks that Marfugel ordered. Or not Marfugel ordered, but Kentucky ordered, and Marfugel wanted to know why. Well, I was going to call into the show, but his show's too late, and I don't stay up that late enough to watch that. So I figured I'd just make a video for him to watch, so he would know what's going on. So what's up with the 40,000 gas masks that Kentucky ordered? And a lot of people are like, it's Kentucky is destroying all their chemical weapons. That's what the Army said they're doing, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so the thing about that is that back in 2013, yes, they built a facility in order to destroy these chemical weapons. However, the chemical weapon that's they're lying to you. They're fibbing a little bit, okay? So, in order for me to tell you how this is going to go and to tell you how what they are doing, I have to go back a few years. Okay, so the Bluegrass Army Depot houses about 2% of the United States' chemical weapons. They have sarin, VX, mustard gas, just about any type of chemical weapon you could think of. So, at one point in time, my dad used to work for the government here, and before he passed away, and of course, I've done some things for the government myself, and our local government is where my dad worked, and I have family that works in local government. So, about 10 years ago or 15 years ago, at one point in time, word was going around that that Kentucky was destroying, the U.S. Army was going to destroy their chemical agents. Well, the secret word behind that is that they can't necessarily destroy the chemical agents that we have. They don't. The technology doesn't exist to destroy those. It's harder to destroy the chemicals that they've made versus them the technology to make them is a whole lot easier than it is to destroy them. Not only that, but countries lie, the military lies, and the United States is not going to get rid of their chemical weapons because other countries still have their chemical weapons, just like the United States is not going to get rid of their nuclear weapons. Now, a treaty was signed, I think 2007, somewhere around 2007, that included the United Nations, that said that the United States would get rid of all their chemical weapons. So, as I said, I have to go back to 1985 and maybe prior. But you know what? I'm going to go back to 1985. So, in 1985, if you're reading what's on your screen, if you want to turn your phone sideways, it may help. I don't know. I've got it enlarged. This is an article from the New York Times from March 13th, 1985. Kentuckians unsettled by nerve gas disposal. Now, this is in 1985. And this is a reprint, Okay, so just to let you know. So in the 1950s, the Army hauled 70,000 M55 Nerf gas rockets to its Lexington Bluegrass depot near here and locked them into storehouses called igloos. Now, if you remember what Marfugel said about him reading an article about those igloos being underground, and that article said they was underground, and they're not. Those articles, it's misleading. The article is misleading. The igloos are in fact above ground, and basically they have a little bit of dirt poured on top of them, and then the grass has grown out of that dirt. Now, the reason they done that is to make it harder to spot from the air. So all those igloos and all those rockets are above ground. So in 1985, they were supposed to dispose of these rockets prior to what's happening now. Yeah. So next, 2008. Okay. So these all of these ordinances, these weapons, these chemical weapons started leaking. And they started leaking long ago, long before even what you're seeing on the screen right here. This is from Fox News, 2008. Last updated 2015. It says mustard gas leak confirmed in Kentucky. Okay, so even prior to this, there was leaks of the chemical weapons. This one says the first mustard gas leak in 3 years was confirmed Tuesday at a chemical weapons stockpile in Kentucky. So this is not a reoccurring occurrence at the Army Depot. Is are leaking nerve agents. You know, it's been going on for a while, and actually the chemical weapons were I think they were made somewhere in the 60s and 70s, and not long after they stored them there, they started leaking. So pretty much they weren't any good to begin with. You know, they should have destroyed them then, but they didn't. They kept them, and they're still keeping them. So this is 2008, and this is they're leaking mustard gas in 2008. So to go along with this, this is not the first time that's leaked in the last 15 years. The last time it leaked, it actually leaked sarin gas, or VX or GB gas, and it also leaked all three major agents that they have stored there have leaked. So this is from 2018 or 2017. I'm sorry. Mustard gas leak at Bluegrass Army Depot. This is our local news here in Kentucky. I'm about 40-ish miles away or so. So maybe roughly right at an hour, 45 minutes to an hour, which is the only reason that is because of the roads. Now, by actual distance that I am from Richmond is basically I am about 20 minutes away from Richmond, basically. So in 2017, like I said, they leaked. Now, as I said, this span of leaking goes back pretty much since the chemical weapons have been made. Okay, so this is 2018. 2018, Richmond, Kentucky, WKYT, that's our local news, March 14th. Crews detected 2 nerve gas leaks during routine inspections this week at Bluegrass Army Depot. The vapor emissions were detected Tuesday and Wednesday. The emissions were both from 115 millimeter rockets, which are filled with GB, also known as sarin. This is 2018. So every one of these have leaked. Now, the Army actually put out a statement several years ago about these leaks and saying why they were leaking and all that stuff. Of course, it says officials say there is no danger or risk to the people in Madison County or surrounding counties. I'm in a surrounding county, which is also the green zone, and I'll show you what I mean by the green zone. The green zone isn't good, trust me. You would think it would mean a red zone, but it's not. It means the exact opposite. So, over the last 50 years, these have been leaking. Well, the Army put out a statement stating that the reason why these leaks aren't being detected to begin with is because the detectors inside of the igloos don't work. And they haven't been working, and they continue not to work. So these leaks happen at 2 years at a time. These leaks do. So before they detect them, they check on them about every 2 years. So every time they check, they find leaks. And every time they find leaks, they put out a statement saying that they're going to destroy them. Well, it just so happens about 10 years ago, this exact situation, this exact scenario has happened about the gas masks. So the United States Army ordered a bunch of gas masks. I think it wasn't quite 40,000. I think it was somewhere around between 18 and 20,000 gas masks. So the Army, once again, every time they find a leak, and yes, this has been a pattern since the 1980s and in the 1970s here in Kentucky, and the same pattern always happens. They find a leak, they put out a statement or an article saying that they're going to destroy them. They never get destroyed. Well, like as I said, while that's happening, it's still leaking. So every 2 years they find a leak. Well, that stuff's been leaking for 2 years. It's inside of a concrete house, an igloo. It's not underground. It's above ground. There's no telling how much of that got in the air. The Army Depot has not been updated. The facilities that houses these have not been updated. So, now, on to the 40,000 gas masks. The reason why they ordered the 40,000 gas masks was because they detected a leak. That's it. Just like they did last time. Just like they ordered them last time, they detected a leak, ordered a bunch of gas masks. But this time, I think it may be worse, and I'm going to tell you why. So the last time like I said, 10 years ago, this same scenario played out. They decided that they were going to order gas masks, and they were going to destroy them. About a month after they said they was going to destroy them, an article came out saying that they were leaking and they couldn't destroy them. Well, they decided to build a facility, $5.5 billion facility to rid themselves of these chemical weapons, which they can't destroy. So, and that's up until now, up until a year ago. So I've told you what's going on up until a year ago. So now, in order for me to tell you the rest, I have to show you a couple things. So as I said, my father, we've worked for, my family works for the government, all that good stuff. So I didn't have a scanner to scan this in. So I'm going to show you what this is on the camera. So I have to enlarge myself. Hey, so anyway, so if you can see that says Jasmine County EMA CSEP. If you don't know what CSEP is, CSEP is nothing more than a FEMA. Basically, it's a smaller FEMA within a county. So basically, they're controlled by FEMA, and it's an extension of FEMA, but it's ran by local government. They hire local government to take care of it, but it's federally funded and it's for the federal. It's FEMA. That's what CSEP is. A lot of the other counties have this. Now, I got sent this last year. Let me show you. October 2018. So at the end of last year, I'm sorry. So what this is, it says you were randomly selected and all answers are confidential. So what that is, if you look at that, that is a survey from SurveyMonkey. Well, I live in a small town. There's no way in the world that my little town is going to put out a survey, especially using SurveyMonkey, or could even afford SurveyMonkey. So I know this is the Army or FEMA. So what that was a survey concerning the Army Depot and what would happen if the Army Depot had an accident. So they had an accident. Of course, it's leaking again. But this time it's a little weird because they put out that survey and asking residents how prepared they were in case there was a disaster at the Army Depot plant with the chemical weapons. If something happened to the chemical weapons, would we be ready for that? Now, as I said, we are the green zone. Any of these counties surrounding the dark green county is an area that could be affected by the chemical weapons and a disaster that could happen with them. So look, I got a green screen on. My green screen's up. So anyway, so Madison County, we're right there. That's where Bluegrass Army Depot is, in that dark green. Well, surrounding counties, these are your next surrounding counties. And then those are a little bit further out. Well, we're right here. We connect to right there. So technically we're in the green zone. And like I said, the green zone isn't a good thing. Usually if you hear red zone, that means you would be in a bad spot. But this time we're in the green zone, and I think they did that on purpose. So all those counties, we're right here. Right there, sorry. So anyway, those are just zones right there. So anyway, we're right here. We're connected to Richmond, right there. So sorry about that. It's backwards on me. So anyway, so I'm right there. We're right here. And as you can see, we're connected, to by the Army Depot. So that's Richmond right there. So we're connected right there. and you can't hardly see it, but we're considered the green zone. So anyway, that survey was, as I said, that survey was for determining if local residents or residents nearby were what they would do, or if they were prepared for a chemical disaster. So, as I said, the 40,000 gas masks are not for the few hundred employees that they say are going to destroy the chemical weapons. They did that the last time. They ordered gas masks. They said that they was going to destroy them. They didn't. They're saying that the facility is built. Now, as far as I know, I don't think that it's operational now. So this goes until today. So the Army put out a warning stating that the facility was up and running and they were now able to destroy chemical weapons. So that chemical weapon can destroy over 15,000 chemical warheads or chemical bombs, if you will, at one time. They are capable of destroying 15,000 at one time. Now, they are doing that by incineration. Okay, so in order to get rid of these, it has to be very high temperature. Like I said, they at the time we were told that residents were the local governments were told that there was no way you could that the Army could destroy them because they had no way to do it, and we're unsure how, because they hadn't even tried. Basically, that's it. They hadn't even tried. So here we are today, and you don't order 40,000 gas masks in order to destroy all these chemical weapons. There's not that many people going to be there. That base is not very big. So here is what I found for June 12th, 2019 by Associated Press, wire service content. I do not trust the wire services. If you don't know what a wire service is, that's the people basically. If you want a story and a wire story has and a wire service like CNN Wire or Fox Wire or AP Wire, that's AP Wire is what that is. You can buy the story. You can get permission to run the story. Whatever. That's what it's for. So, anyway, it says first chemical weapon destroyed at facility. That's what that says. Officials have begun destroying Cold War era chemical weapons that have been stored at a Kentucky at the Army depot. So it says Richmond, Kentucky AP. Officials have begun destroying Cold War era chemical weapons that have been stored at Kentucky Army depot for decades. Yeah, it's been like 50 years. The facility at the Bluegrass Army Depot successfully destroyed, A meaning one, mustard agent munition on Friday in Richmond. They destroyed one. Not one lot, not one bulk package, a mustard gas agent munition. One. So, as I said, that facility is said to be able to destroy 15,000 at one time by incineration. I've yet to see the facility. I have not seen it. I've seen pictures of it on the internet. Last year, a couple years ago, it was barely even finished. So now, all that being said, what I find is weird is that out of all that, what I find is weird is this right here. And these questions asking us if we're prepared. This now, remember, this is October 2018, late October, so it's been 8 months since I received that. So basically at the end of the year, almost into 2019. Now, at the end of 2019, they've known that they were going to destroy those, and since they're destroying them, would have no reason to send this out. If they were destroying all the weapons and all the munitions from all the chemical weapons, then they would have no reason, then we would have no reason to fear an accident, correct? So that tells me this is nothing more than a repeat. They are not going to destroy the weapons. In fact, this makes me more worried than anything. This does. I live about 25 minutes from there, and as I said, there's no reason for them to send us this if they had planned, if they were going to destroy them 8 months later. No reason. I mean, why even spend the money asking residents if they were prepared? You don't do that unless you plan on keeping it. Now, is it possible that they're leaking a whole lot more than what you think they are? Oh yeah, it's a definite possibility. It's a possibility that by now, all of them's leaking. And between the counties of Jasper County or surrounding counties, the residents of Richmond, you're talking, I think maybe right around 40,000 residents in Richmond, maybe a little more. There's about 60,000 in my county alone. But as I said, 10 years ago, they ordered roughly 20,000 more gas masks about 10 years ago. So that makes them have at least 30,000 plus gas masks on hand. 30,000 at least. I'm going to say more than that. So what I believe is getting ready to happen is that I believe that these weapons they had a chance to get rid of them, but they didn't know how to. I don't think they wanted to get rid of them. And it's got to the point to where they're all leaking. Like I said, they've been leaking since the 70s. Every time it starts leaking, the Army starts screaming, we're going to destroy them next year. Next year comes, that doesn't happen. 2 more years, we stand by what we set by while they leak for 2 years. And then I'm sure that I'm sure they've been leaking for 2 years for the last 40 years. I'm sure they have. Slowly, they've been slowly leaking for the last 40 years. And I haven't seen any I know respiratory problems here are off the charts. They are. There's a great deal of COPD happening with non-smokers in Kentucky. A great deal, especially around the central Kentucky area. I mean, even non-smokers are getting COPD, which is a type of pneumonia that basically smothers you to death. It scars your lungs. My dad passed away with it. So non-smokers, and like I said, the around Kentucky, you don't hear much out of Kentucky because Kentucky doesn't say much. They don't put out their business that much. I mean, we still, if you remember when all that statue crap was going on with the Confederate statues, man, they didn't. Only Lexington was the only one that moved their statues. Nobody else moved their statues. Everybody's got Confederate statues. Because we don't think that way. We don't think in terms of that. We're not, it isn't about being politically correct here. Basically, nobody here sees anything like that any more than what it is, history. That's it. Nobody looks at it like that way. If you look at it more than that way, you're doing nothing more than trying to cause trouble. Anyway, so that's what's happening in Kentucky. More than likely, there's a massive leak in. They probably have more than just a couple warheads leaking. More than likely, it's probably gotten really bad. Just 2 days ago, actually one day I was going to call in. 2 Apache helicopters flew over, going towards Richmond. Our military never flies that way, for one. Usually our military doesn't fly that in that direction. Second of all, I've never seen Apache attack helicopters, fly towards Richmond. And as Marfugel stated, it was all about 1,200 people or so, something like that. We're going to be involved in the dismantle of these weapons. You can't fit 1,200 people in 2 Apache attack helicopters. They only carry 2 people. Any other military we've seen here? Nothing. So unless they drove here, we haven't seen any military aircraft go past here in the last month. The last time I did, I seen them heading south, mainly towards Texas, if you will. But they come from our north and flew over Lexington. Most of our military operations stay west of here, which is Fort Knox, which is also about an hour away. And so those Apache helicopters came from Fort Knox. And I'm pretty sure and they were headed towards the Bluegrass Army Depot. And, I've worked for the FBI. I just actually did a job for, Lockheed Martin, in a place called Avon, which is near Paris. I was inside their facility. They build helicopter parts, and they build helicopter parts for their helicopters there. And the reason I was in there is because they didn't tell me why or what they was getting ready to build. But we had to go in there and fix some things, and we had to go in there and get the dust micron level down to next to nothing, basically. And we had to go in and take all of our equipment in and basically suck the air out of the building, seal the building off, suck all the air and the dirt out of it, and that way they could start building some kind of new secret tech they're working on. They're getting ready, Lockheed Martin's working on. And, I remember I talked to one of the guys there. The people at Lockheed Martin, they're like, yeah, we got security clearance for this, security clearance for that, and I was like, yeah, I know. I used to do work for the FBI, and I've worked for the Army. I've worked for the Army, the Navy, the Marines. I used to do construction, subcontract construction work for them. Except for the FBI one. That's the FBI one was not a subcontracting job. That was a specialized contracting job, and I can't tell you about that one. Sorry, I just can't. I'm under obligation not to. I'll get in trouble for that one, and I can't tell you what. I mean, I could probably tell you what Lockheed was working on. All I know, they were working on secret parts for some sort of new aircraft. They're developing parts for it. That's all I know. I don't know what the aircraft is. Don't have a clue. So I do know that, and I do know they're building those parts here. Avon, which is also part of the military, owns that. Avon. It's also called a depot. It's located not far from Richmond, but it is the Army owns the property and the buildings, but Lockheed Martin works out of those buildings. So, as I said, the mainstream media is telling everybody, or the Army, or the U.S. government's telling everybody in Kentucky and telling everybody in the United States that they're destroying all these weapons, all these chemical weapons. They're not going to. I mean, we've been through this over and over and over and over and over. Here, I'll do it again. Over and over and over and over. But this time, basically what's happening whenever they order gas mask is it's leaking. That's what's going on. So, for them to order 40,000 gas masks, not long after they send me this, and like I said, this is a random selection. Basically, people whose families are work in the military or work in the local government here. That's who those went to. And I know the few of the other people that got sent those, and they are local government employees as well. So the fact that they're showing those, handing those out, and showing that, asking us what, if we are ready for if we're ready for something bad to happen at the Army Depot. It even went as far to ask if we have gas masks. It asked if we had food. It asked if we had radios. And if we didn't, we needed to tell them. That's what it asked you to do. It asked you to say if you had gas masks or were prepared for such an event. Now, I had part of that. I do have the survey on one of my videos. I do. It's on one of my first few videos. I can't remember which one. So my first couple of videos are on there. I do have that survey because I did a screenshot recording of the survey that I took. So that is on there. And that would be back in October 2018 is when I made the video. So look for that video and that should be on there. But as I said, the reason why they're ordering the 40,000 masks is more than likely there's a huge gas leak, either sarin or, the VX or sarin and GB are both the same, mustard gas. There's no telling what other chemical weapons we have stored there. We don't know. We just know the 3 or 4 that they tell us, and that's it. We have no knowledge otherwise than that. I would have to ask a friend of mine that lives next to the base, like their backyard meets it, like their backyard. You go out their backyard, 10 feet from their back door is the Army base fence. And yes, there's cameras all the way around that mother too, buddy. And And if you go down the road, they will stop you. They don't like you taking pictures of it. Like I said, it's holding chemical weapons. And also, as I said, the base is the base of that stuff isn't underground. And I know I keep repeating myself, but some people keep showing up, and I want to make sure that everybody gets it. But you can rewatch it if you want to. So anyway, so yeah, basically the 40,000 gas mask is not because they're destroying them. The 40,000 gas mask is more than likely. Give me a 90% assurity, 90%, 95% sure that more than likely they're leaking. With this, coupled with that, I'm going to say that something bad it's a possibility that something bad is getting ready to happen with the Army Depot asking us if we're ready. Like I said, that was FEMA asking that in the Army. So, you know, it's not looking good because, like I said, this has been a process through the whole time. It's always the same thing over and over and over and over and over every year since the 1970s, and nothing's changed. So they're not going to destroy them. They're not going to destroy any chemical weapons because basically they don't know how to make the gas inert. And the facility that they built is basically heat. I think if I'm not mistaken, I think it had to be over like 3,000 degrees or maybe I think it was hotter. Maybe I know it was in the thousands Kelvin that would be needed to destroy these gases at the time. Now, I don't know what they've come up with since then, but I know they couldn't do it 10 years ago. I'm positive. I'm positive they couldn't do it 5 years ago. And as I said, the leaks, it just keeps on leaking. And it leaks. And then 2 years later, they go back in. They say, hey, it's leaking. We need to destroy them. They don't destroy them. 2 years later, it's leaking. We need to destroy them. But this time, it's gotten a little worse, I think. And more than likely, something bad's going to happen out of this, especially with that survey. Once Marfugel reported the 40,000 gas mask, coupled with that survey, I knew what was going on. We've been around it before, so. All right, man. This is Disclosure TV. I'm going to try to do more live streams. I will, and I'll try to get back on my regular schedule. And I didn't have enough viewers for me to get back on here all the time. But my videos are getting better, but I don't know how long that's going to last because of YouTube. And once I hit 1,000, I don't know if they're gonna let me stream live like I should or not because of their political agenda, if you will. So I don't know if they're going to do that either. And so, like I said, I appreciate you all watching. Mal Winhose, I appreciate you watching. That's cool. You was born in Woodford County. I actually broke my back in Woodford County. I fell and broke my back in Versailles. So, yeah, I broke my back there. And I was actually at a subdivision right off of the Bluegrass Parkway. If you go into Woodford County, right off Bluegrass Parkway right there where they built a new subdivision, and right before you go into town, that's, I guess, right by there's a big soccer field, a big recreational area for the fair, I think, right in there. That's, I broke my back there. So, all right, people, I appreciate everybody watching, and I hope you all have a good night. Like I said, I will try to do more live shows. and I'll try to get back to doing whatever I can. Peace out.
May God be with you. This is not a test.